Welcome to our pod. And by that, I mean on Wednesdays we read. I'm Hannah.
I'm Laura.
And we are two best friends who have done this opening 3 times now.
We are two best friends dealing with technical issues.
Hannah's internet was not working and she's the one who has to record it. So
usually it's my internet, so it's refreshing for me.
I was like, I don't know what to do when I'm having internet issues. But yeah, so we are two friends who usually do a deep dive into a new book series, one book at a time. But today we are on Intermission, everyone. We are covering the second half of Miss Percy's Pocket Guide to the Care and Feeding of British Dragons.
Adorable.
Adorable, cute, just too much cuteness, to not enough to go around, but so much. But before we get into that, Laura, what are you reading, watching, and or enjoying?
So I'm trying to remember the last thing I talked about. I think it was Zachary, Ying and the Dragon.
Yes,
Emperor.
You did.
Okay. I will just say again, everyone read that book. It is so good. And then go find Xiran and Zhao on YouTube because they are amazing and so smart. And I love their YouTube channel. Okay. Another thing that I read though was, and this one I know is on your TBR, Hannah, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin.
Mm-hmm.
I was conflicted on this book, and I kind of talked through it with Sandra from Story Darlings fame about it because she was the one that recommended this to me for my 12 challenge, and I was so conflicted because I could not decide whether this was like one of the best books I've read or whether I didn't like it. And I don't know why some books are like that, where you're like, this is excellent, but also I kind of don't like it. And I think it was just at times for me, this book got a little long.
Yeah.
Where if it maybe would have been cut down a little bit, it might have sat with me a little better. And then there were some specific plot choices that were made that were very difficult to read. And I don't know if they were necessary. But at the same time, I don't know if I can picture the book without those things now, so it's so conflicting to me. And overall though, I think that the representation in the book is amazing. I specifically liked how chronic pain and disability was represented, and there, I know, Hannah, that you and I talked last week about how we didn't like all the like shout outs to like current events and stuff like that. This book is chock full of them. There are a million references to games because obviously it's a book about gaming,
right?
But there's all sorts of cultural references, and I think it works in this book where it wasn't like grating to me because I think that's what the book was about. It was supposed to be giving you all these references to things that were happening, but I think there were just a couple things about this book that really kind of like made me conflicted, and one was the length, because at times I was just like, okay, this is getting too long. And the second thing was really just some of the choices that the author made to move the story forward, and I just don't know if they were necessary. But again, I don't know if I could suggest other things to put into this book. I don't think I could. So I'm conflicted. I'm really conflicted because, again, the representation and some of the themes in this book were excellent, but still
just a little bit too much.
Still conflicted with some of these plot choices. I don't know.
Well,
it's difficult for me.
I do wonder if like sometimes there's a book you can recognize that it's very good, and you can also recognize that it's probably not for you. And so that's probably where your conflict is coming from, where like you can understand that a book is so good, and then also like,
No, I will tell you off air because I don't want to spoil this for everyone.
Okay.
But there was a very specific plot choice that was really difficult to read, and I don't know if it was necessary, and I don't think that it's something that's like just relevant to like certain people.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe it is, but yeah, it was difficult to read. So that was something specifically that I was kind of thinking of, like, oh, yeah. But overall, like the themes and representation in this book, excellent. Highly recommend just for those reasons. I do think people should read this book. I think that it gets hype for a reason, and it's because the parts of it that are great are really great. Really,
Yeah.
really great. So yeah, if you're thinking about reading it, definitely add it to your sooner to TBR because it's very, very good. Very, very
Okay.
good.
Well, that's good to know. Are you watching anything right now?
Okay, so I'm still watching Jury Duty because my husband and I are just kind of like watching it in little nuggets, like an episode here or there. Do you know that Ike Barinholtz and John Barinholtz's dad is on this show?
He's the judge.
He's the judge. He's a
Yeah.
lawyer and judge in real life,
Mhm.
and also an actor apparently. But I was like,
Well, he wanted
kind
to
of
get into
familiar.
acting and he didn't. So like they had him get into this role because his sons are now in acting. And they were like,
That's
oh, you have a
amazing.
dad who wanted to be an actor and is equipped to do exactly what we want him to do. He's hired.
Way to pull all the stops.
Right.
Because you can tell, like, he knows a lot of the jargon and everything, but he sounds so comfortable saying some of this stuff. You're like, wow. Well, so then I was looking up the cast because I was like, I think I recognize somebody else from this or that or whatever. And then I was like, wait a minute, Alan Barinholtz, like Ike Barinholtz? So
That's amazing.
then I had to do a deep dive on their family, and I'm just so impressed with them because they are so talented and so
That's
smart.
good.
Did you see that Ike Barinholtz won Celebrity Jeopardy? Like, he's a genius.
No, but I love that. He's so amazing. I love Ike Barinholtz so much. He's so
I loved
talented.
him and John.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. John's amazing.
I've been watching
I
a
told
lot
you,
of
John
American
retweeted
Auto.
me once.
Yeah, I remember that. I've been watching a lot of American Auto, and John is one of the stars of that. And he's very, very funny. They took like so much of his personality that he showed in Superstore, and they just ran with it in this show. And it works really, really well for him. So I hope that this show stays on for a while because I think it's pretty funny. And it's kind of one of those shows that I think you have to kind of pay attention and listen to it more so than you would other shows because some of the things they say you can miss things. So it's a good show, and I think I don't know if it's super popular, but I hope it doesn't like go under the radar and then get canceled because people aren't giving it a chance or know about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've seen some American Auto on
it's on Peacock. That's how I've been watching it.
Yeah, no, but I've seen like it on TikTok a little bit. And
okay.
honestly, I for a while mistook American Auto for the Nicole Byers TV show that's been on.
Yeah.
But I started watching that
Grand
one.
Crew is
Grand
Nicole.
Crew. Yeah, I started watching Grand Crew. And I enjoy Grand Crew. I think it's very funny.
I've only seen the pilot, so I haven't really got into it. And I literally just watched the pilot like last week. So
okay,
it's just me not having time to watch a bunch of TV.
I watched all of season 1 kind of like over the course of a week because it's not that many episodes, and I do like it's not the best show out there, but it's also like exactly it's just like a very good sitcom, like
it's
a
what
very
it
good
advertises,
mediocre
basically.
Yeah, like it's very no frills. And I think for a while I thought American Auto and Grand Crew were the same thing because it sounds like you're fixing a car both times.
Well, they both sound like car related things.
Yeah,
so
I think I was like, oh yeah, that's the same thing, and it's definitely not. And Grand Crew is actually about a wine bar, so figure that one out. But I did.
Yeah, because like in the first episode, they are trying to figure out what their new spot's going to be because they got kicked out of the other bar.
Well, and I like how the show, it has like a good way of like onboarding people because you haven't gotten to this episode yet, but they do bring in another series regular. And they do it through like one of like the guy in the first episode who like falls in love too quickly. He keeps like going out and like running into this woman. He's like, oh my god, it's fate, and he's like doing all this
cute. It's a million meet cutes.
Like he thinks it's a meet cute, and he like has been trying to do meet cutes. Like his sister, he's like, I'm gonna take myself out to lunch, and his sister goes to see him, and she's like, oh my god, you dropped your license on the ground for a forced meet cute, and he's like, that's not what happened. And this guy comes up and he's like, oh sir, you dropped your license, and he goes, that's not for you.
It was for a forced meet cute.
It was for a
amazing.
And so the sister's like, I'm gonna teach you how to like treat yourself and like, you know, spend time by yourself. And they keep going to all these places and he keeps like running into this woman. And he's like, isn't it weird that we keep running into her? And Nicole Byers' character is like, not really. There's not that many Black people in this area. Like we all run into each other. And then he like goes up to meet the girl and he's like, hi, like I just keep running into you. Does that feel like fate? The woman's like, not really. There's not that many Black people in this
says
area.
the same thing. Like,
yeah. And so in the second episode, like small spoilers, you could skip it, but in that episode, he's like, I think you were actually meant to meet my sister. Like you keep running into us at her favorite places. Maybe you two are supposed to be friends. And then that character like continues on and becomes like friends with Nicole.
Oh, that's
Byers.
cute.
So but it's a very cute show. I would say it's like low stakes and very easily watched. And it's a very funny show. I like Nicole Byers' character the best in her friendship, like because they're creating a new female friendship, and like watching that is very joyful. And you
don't see a lot of that in sitcoms. I feel like it's mostly about like the will they, won't they.
And it definitely has a little bit of that because like you can't help it. But I also like they have different types of characters, and like I do like the way they mix them because like two friends, like one is a friend from high school and one's a friend from college, and they decide to live together, and it's like watching those two interact and like learning how to live with each other because like they get under each other's skin in a weird way. And I'm like, oh, they have like good matchups with the people. And
I always appreciate on shows where they don't always like have the same two characters interacting all the time, where they will mix it up and stuff. And it's easier if you have a bigger cast, obviously, because then you can kind of do trios or whatever. But on shows like Friends is the one I'm thinking of. It seemed like there were always just like kind of natural pairings that they would fall into, or it was like Ross and Rachel are always having some kind of plot line, or Monica and Rachel, and you wouldn't see some of the plot or some of them have interactions as much as others.
I will say I was like listening to a podcast where like they were called like the Friends podcast or whatever. And there was an episode where like Rachel and Chandler get thrown together, and Rachel like knocks on like Chandler's door and she's like, hey, I wanted to see if you wanted to go to lunch. And they were like, you know, that's fun. Like you never think about the fact that like Rachel and Chandler are probably off screen going to lunch because they both work in the same area.
Right. and that's what I'm thinking of too. Like, oh yeah, you wouldn't really see too many episodes with Rachel and Chandler. So it's like, oh,
right, like, oh, it's so weird and unique. And like I feel like Phoebe and Chandler also didn't have like the biggest pairing, so Chandler randomly just like never happened.
Chandler had Ross and Monica,
and Joey. So I think that's the problem, is like Chandler was like the go-between of the boys because there wasn't a ton of Ross and Joey things, so maybe they were just trying to pair him up with the two boys too often. But
because he was like the longtime friend of Ross's. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he was like both of their best men, or he was supposed to be. And like, I don't know. So, well, that was good. I
Too much
to watch American Auto.
American Auto is fun.
Jury Duty. And then you need to watch Grand Crew. We can both fix cars.
I need to watch more Grand Crew. I've watched all of American Auto, so now I can switch to Grand Crew.
Exactly. Perfect.
I also have been watching Clone Wars on Disney Plus, and I've been watching Tales of the Jedi. So Tales of the Jedi, so these are both animated, and Tales of the Jedi came out last year, and it's by the same director as Clone Wars, but it's interesting to me how different the shows are, because like Tales of the Jedi is like an anthology series that is following two specific Jedi and their paths to becoming Jedi. So, or kind of like background stories that you don't get in Clone Wars or the other series. But it's interesting to me because like I think they're both supposed to be kind of targeted at children, obviously because they're animated or whatever. But Clone Wars is very much a specific type of animated series that came out like when we were kids, you know. I don't know how to describe it, where it's almost like there are stakes, but at the same time each episode ends kind of with like a funny quip from Anakin Skywalker, like like, whoa, that was a close one, you guys. Looks over at the camera and smiles, and then it's like, and like with the past music again. And I do kind of enjoy it because it gives me a little nostalgia, even though like I never watched this as a kid,
right?
But nostalgia for that type of TV show. And then Tales of the Jedi, I think, is a pretty well done animated show for what it is. And it's very much dramatic and kind of like, oh yeah, that is rough to watch some of these things.
Right.
So I appreciate what that show is doing. Because
Yeah.
it seems like it's building off of things that were happening in Clone Wars, especially. I didn't realize like what a foundation Clone Wars
That's what
was.
everyone says. Like, no one understands how big Clone Wars were because it's like, well, the Clone Wars happened at the end of those.
I mean, it's so many episodes. I've watched 7 of them, I think, 6 or 7, and it's not a show that I can just binge because, like, again, it's one of those like kind of I don't really even know the way to describe it, where it's a little quippy, but at the same time, it's like, Anakin, watch out! Well, I can't do that because that's not the way that I'm used to driving. It's like, okay, well, please get out of 2002. But anyways.
I mean, also, that's probably when that show was created.
It is when that show was created, I think. But it's very much like that type of animated show where you get such 2002 vibes, and there's just very much a the sense that it's for kids, that they can't leave off on like a bad note. Everything has to kind of leave off on a positive note, even though there are still stakes in the next episode to keep you coming back. But it's so crazy to me. Sorry, crazy isn't a good word. It's so interesting to me that Clone Wars as an animated show that I would think is totally geared for kids, especially in the way that it's written and kind of acted out. And the animation too, that it is actually like such a foundation for other series and things that happen within the Star Wars universe.
Oh my goodness.
And there's all these things that have just been built upon it and are connected to it, which is fascinating. I never would have thought that.
That's fun.
Yeah. Interesting and also strange to me. But Hannah, what have you been reading and watching?
Well, we're going to count my Grand Crew discussion as my watching because I haven't been watching a ton. I had like a family wedding this weekend. I was exhausted yesterday. So I've mostly been watching TikTok. But this week I'm going to talk about my last read. I'm going to say that, guys, Emily Henry came out with a new book and Hannah had to read it. And
Emily Henry, came out, famous for NetGalley.
For denying me an earlier read from her NetGalley.
Owner of NetGalley, Emily Henry.
Came out with Happy Place. And I read it all in one sitting. I binged.
Oh my gosh.
I just like walked around the entire night. My boyfriend came over and I was like, okay, good night. And then I just like left the bedroom, sat in the living room and read it until 12:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh. How many pages was it? Is it a long book?
It's a pretty long book. He came out to make sure I was okay. He was like concerned for my safety.
Are you and Emily okay out here?
It was like 400 pages.
Oh wow.
But I adored this book. I would say it's still like third best in my like list of things.
So beach read number 1.
Beach read number 1, book lovers number 2, Happy Place number 3. But I don't think that says anything bad about this book. Like a lot of people detested this book. I really love it.
Really?
I think it's a really good book. I think my thing is like I love beach read and book lovers so much that this is a hard one to talk about. But this one is definitely like, you and I've talked a lot about recently, off mic and on mic, about like whether Emily Henry is like a romance author or whether certain romance books are actually romance books or whether they just get glommed into that large category because it's like, oh, this is for women and it has a love interest in it. So obviously it's a romance. And it's like, I don't necessarily think Happy Place is a romance, nor do I think Beach Read is maybe a romance. I would say Book Lovers and People We Meet on Vacation are more of her romance novels. Because like Beach Read is a lot about grief and like, yes, she does fall in love, but that's not the main focus. It's also the relationship with her dad and everything and like going back in time and stuff. And Happy Place is about a second chance romance. So Harriet and Wynn meet in college and they fall in love. And it kind of like part of the story is going back in time and like looking at them falling in love. And they always went to this beach house owned by their friend. And this year, Wynn isn't supposed to be going, but suddenly he's there. And they had made a pact for him not to show up because they're actually not together anymore. And they haven't told any of their friends yet. Like they're waiting for a while. They've been broken up for 6 months. They haven't told any of their best friends.
Wow.
And so like, that's like, you kind of find out that Harriet and Wynn have been trying to do long distance because like, his mom needs his help because she's gotten sick. So they've been doing long distance after his dad died, and Harriet like is doing her residency in California, and he's like in Montana or something. And so they just like they broke up, and they're pretending like they've been seeing each other the entire time. They're pretending they're doing long distance because like they kind of didn't want to upset their friends, and they kind of wanted to find the right time to tell them. So Harriet was going to tell them on this vacation, but then she finds out she can't tell them because like they brought him here, and there's like huge secret like there's huge like events going on, like the vacation home is getting sold, so like she doesn't want to rock the boat. And so I think like a lot of this book could be like a lot of people are like, it's a second chance romance, but I think that that's not quite true. Cause like, yes, they're having a relationship, but it's almost like it's a very long book, but the romance doesn't get a lot of page time, in my opinion, unless you're like revisiting stuff that happened and how they came to be broken up. And I think there's a lot more involved with like the friendships and what it means to like kind of be adults in your 30s who are still friends, who want to be best friends, but also have like lost touch and have some like underlying issues going on, and there's lack of communication going on. And so like they're like different matchups, like talking about like what's going on with everyone, where they're at in life right now, and like Harriet where she's at with her work and like how she's been feeling and like losing connection with people and everything. And so like yes, it's about the romance of Harriet and Wynn and like coming back together and how to come back together when you broke up for like specific reasons. But it just didn't feel like it was too much of a romance in my mind, but still very good.
Well, you said that people have been like harping about this book, like not liking it. Well, I'm looking at Goodreads right now, and 55% of the people who have rated this have given it 5 stars. So
that's true.
And there's 62,000 ratings. So that's a lot.
I guess that's just like sometimes on TikTok people, I mostly watch TikTok, but it's like, like some people on TikTok have been like, I think this is her worst one. And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's all personal preference. And I think certain books are going to hit. And
media is honestly.
Right.
Like, everybody likes different things.
And so I think like, I don't know, there's just certain books that like aren't for everyone. And that's the thing is like, I don't really like People We Meet on Vacation that much, but lots of people are like, I love that book. It's underrated. And I'm like, no, I think I just like, I'm not really a fan of watching two friends who could have been together for a very long time, like not be together and
Stew
then
on it.
Also like be in very serious relationships with other people where they're not fully involved with that person. I'm like, that seems unfair to me.
Sure.
So like like there are certain things that happen to People We Meet on Vacation that I'm like, what? There's just really random things that like don't make sense to me.
Okay.
So like, I think sometimes it's about personal preference because some people are like, that was so deeply romantic. And like, I was like, no, it's not. It's really weird. Like, so I do think like certain books, but I love Emily Henry, but I also
do you have like a trope for romance that you prefer?
I think I always like a little bit of like, well, I'm trying to think of the right way. I always like antagonists to lovers, like not enemies to lovers, because if it's like too much antagonizing, I think it's
enemies
really
to lovers
weird.
Doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't. Like you don't go from like being diametrically opposed against each other, actively wanting one person to fail, to be like, oh, actually we're in love all the time. But I do love the like Pride and Prejudice, like Mr. Darcy thinking like just miscommunication of like, oh, I'm
miscommunication to lovers.
Yeah, or like annoyance where it's like, dude, like you haven't been treating me like correctly. Or like there's just like, and I think like that happened in Beach Read where like Gus was like, I was obsessed with you, and she was like, you were mean to me. And there's like, he thought he was saying one thing, but she was taking it another way, and they had to learn like about each other's perspectives. I think I really like that. Or just
I always feel like I want to say friends to lovers is my favorite trope, but I can't recall really reading any that made a lot of sense, or at all reading any, because people so often go for enemies to lovers. But in my mind, when I'm thinking of like actual relationships, friends to lovers seems the most likely.
Yeah.
didn't happen. So
I
it's
don't
interesting
know.
that we don't see as much of that. Maybe people just enjoy a good conflict or a
Well, and
miscommunication.
I think sometimes like friends to lovers, it can be done effectively, but what I don't like seeing is like we've been in love with each other for years. I'm like, well, then
Sure.
why weren't you together?
Why didn't it happen?
Yeah, like it should have happened by now
Yeah.
then. Like what? No, that's not
Well,
realistic. Like you guys were
you guys
attracted
never
to each
talked?
other. And like that's I think like more modern stuff has been doing better about that. Like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, we did talk about it once, but like I wasn't in the position to be, and then they moved
Sure.
on, and now we can come back together because we're in the right moment at the right time. But it's not this like I was pining after you. Like I hate the
Yeah.
pining stuff where it's like I've been obsessed with you and I want to date it and I wanted to date you,
Mhm.
but I settled on friendship. I'm like, no one settles for friendship.
No.
Like friendship is a very important type of relationship.
Yeah.
So but I do like I've never seen you that way before, but something kind of happened where like we're in the right place at the right time. And
I also
based
think
on
there's the
that,
situation of like they're in a relationship with somebody else and they've been friends throughout, and then
Mhm,
somebody becomes available and then
mhm.
it's like, oh, well, we could explore
we could try
this.
this out. Yeah, and I think I like that.
Mhm.
But I think sometimes like the way like with people we meet on vacation where it's like we've been best friends and we are both
Yeah,
in
the
love with
whole
each
we've
other.
been
I'm like,
best friends for 30 years and never tried this. Like,
I hate
really?
that. I'm like,
Never
really?
have?
No. No, thank you. So I don't like friends to lovers when it's not done
Mhm.
effectively. But as I
Yeah.
grow older, I also become a bigger fan of friends to lovers because I think in my younger
Mhm.
year I was like obsessed with like an enemies or like annoyance to lovers in like a deeply held way where you think it's so great and it's really just like, no, you don't know what sexual tension is. Like you mistake that for
I
sexual
think
tension.
that everyone goes through a stage like in their youth where they think that the villain is hot and
Mhm.
we must end up with the villain and we can change them. And so this plays
Mhm.
into why we love enemies to lovers.
Mhm.
And it's not right because sometimes the enemy is an enemy or is a
Right.
villain and they should not become a
Well,
lover.
and it also teaches you that, like, don't worry, he's treating you badly now, but he'll change when he knows he might lose
Yeah.
you. It's like, no, like,
You
find
can
someone.
change him. No.
No. So, like, I'm very much into the annoyance to lovers still because I think usually there's a miscommunication underlying it where it's like, oh, we have two different forms of communicating. And once we learn, then we're like on better footing. But enemies to lovers, like, what was it that terrible movie where he's like, I painted the wall the color of your eyes?
Oh, Lucy Hale was in that. I can picture the
I know, I can't remember what it was called.
hating game. I never
The
watched
hating
it,
game.
but I loved your review that you gave on this.
I painted the wall the color of your eyes. It's just like, no,
How creepy. Thank
it's
you.
so creepy. And they're definitely supposed to be enemies to lovers. I'm like, you two were actively trying to ruin the other one's career for years. Like, that's not
Yeah, and that's
okay.
the thing too. You'll see this in a lot of movies where they are absolutely toxic to each other for a long time to the point where they're like doing almost physical harm to each other in certain situations. And then they end up together and it's like, I don't think I could just get over that easily, but maybe that's just me where
That's
I just like
rewatching the Mindy Project. I'm like, listen,
yeah.
David Castellano like did too many
No.
things. I don't think you should be with him anymore. Like as an
He's
adult
terrible.
person, no. Yeah, just like I don't know. I'm glad I'm now in my 30s and like, oh yeah, enemies to lovers is not okay sometimes, and like you need to be appropriate with each other and not like objectively trying to ruin the other person's life. Are you kidding me? So yeah, but I but I'm gonna talk about Happy Place today because it was so good. And on the other side, I read The Kiss Quotient by Helen Hong. Have I talked about this?
No, you said you were going to read it though, I think.
Yeah,
because you read another one of hers in the series, but like out of order, but they don't have to be read in order.
I've read the second and the third one in this series. So this was the first one. And I will say that it was not my favorite of the three. I'm just going to talk about the romances I read recently because it's a good time. But I liked parts of this book. So like the book, Helen Hong is a person with autism. And so she always focuses on one of the main characters typically have autism. this book came out before a lot of the discussion over like autism and Asperger's. So like warnings there if you do not like reading the term Asperger's, it is discussed in this, but I think it does discuss like the language around it as well. So that's helpful. But Stella is a person with autism and she doesn't think she's good at sex and she wants to get better. So she hires an escort or a sex worker to help her get better at sex. And they end up falling in love. Now, I thought that it was a very interesting book. I really liked a lot of it. I really liked Michael, who's the love interest. He's pretty awesome. The thing I had a huge issue with was kind of the way it looks at sex work. Like sex work is it's a profession, like, you know, it's a valid profession of people who actively choose to participate in it. And this book had like a lot of undertones of like judgment for people who are in sex work. Like Michael doesn't want to be a sex worker, so he has a lot of shame involved in it. He just wants to do it because like he's trying to help with his like family bills and everything. And so he always like kind of judges himself. I don't love that. He judges other sex workers. Like at one point, Stella's like, well, I'm going to hire another person. And he's like, well, some people would be dangerous. You have to be careful. And I'm like, that's not the right tone to be like, don't worry, I'm one of the good ones. Like, I think that's
weird.
Especially like she hired someone through an agency. So she like was going through something that had vetted the people. So like there was a discussion of like, the fact that she has autism, he has experience of people with autism. So he's like, I do understand you on a certain level. And like, some people may not understand you. And I'm like, that's a fine conversation to have. But like some sex workers are dangerous. I don't love that. I also didn't love, like, I really liked the idea of like a story with someone who's in sex work. I think that that's an awesome idea.
Sure.
But some of the like Stella gets jealous of the women he's been with. And it's like, that's not healthy because it's not the same. Like if you're going to be
it's not a
with
relationship.
Someone, if you're going to be with someone who was in that profession, you do have to work through those types of like ideas in your head. And it seems like she doesn't get to as much. And there was just, I didn't love the way it was discussed. It wasn't quite for me. So
Sure.
I was a little disappointed in it just because I had high hopes, because I was like, oh, it's really interesting that like they're doing
the
this,
premise of it is interesting.
Yeah, so. Like I really like the premise and I really like the thought behind it, but sometimes it was just like not so great. But like, and the beginning of it was good because it was like Michael talking about like want and need and like being there for her and telling her like what, like, because obviously she's someone who like thinks she's quote unquote bad at sex. And he's like, no, you're not. You're just like, all of your experiences has been with someone who hasn't taken the time to understand what you need in the situation. And you're allowed to want things in the situation. It's not like a checklist of what you need to be good at. It should be a discussion between both people. And I was like, oh, that's nice. So why wasn't the entire book about that? Like, it just felt a little weird to me. So I still gave it 3 stars because I don't think it was like super duper harmful. There were just very harmful notes in it that I didn't love when they came up.
Sure.
But that was, I mean, I read it. So, and that one's definitely a romance novel. So, I really liked the beginning and I just feel like it didn't stick the landing. So it's unfortunate.
Sure. I feel like sometimes though, you have a book like that maybe has a good idea and is trying to start something and maybe they don't hit it right with their work, but the next person that reads it and maybe wants to write a story can, and I hate to just be like, oh, pull an idea from this, but maybe it kind of sparks something in somebody else to maybe have some more inclusion of something like this and maybe write it in a little bit better way.
Yeah. And this is also like, I don't know why this makes a difference, but it was back in 2018. And it does make me happy that like in 7 years, there has been other discussions of like healthy representation for like people who have different jobs that are not jobs you're typically seeing. So like, I do think the world was maybe a little bit more judgmental in 2018 and we have expanded a lot in our understanding and knowledge of things. So like I said, like trigger warning, because they do use the term like Asperger's in this book. That is no longer a term that is appropriately used for people with autism. So it's like, okay, well, this book did recognize like this book was of its time. So there might have been more harmful discussions
Okay.
7 years ago than there are now. 5 years ago. Oh, 5. I can't do math.
But she might have written it in.
Yeah, but she might have written it 2 years
7
before
years,
that.
yeah.
So yeah. It's not like when I read The Love Hypothesis when I was like, this came out too late to be this bad.
And we have found the podcast title. This came out too late to be this bad.
But with that, Laura, should we get into a much better book?
Yes, Miss Percy.
Miss Percy, we left off with poor little Fitz setting a fire. And everyone gaslighting these women into believing they didn't see a fire-breathing bat.
And we also saw some forearms on Mr. Wiggin.
He has very good forearms.
We are turned on at the moment by some forearms.
Hey, some latent life horniness. You can be horny at 40. Come on.
I didn't say you couldn't be horny at 40. I'm just saying, like, forearms is all it takes. That was area.
Well, in the Regency era, yes, very much so. People would be like,
amazing.
Oh, look, their ankles are showing.
Scandalous, all that skin.
I could see a little bit of a calf muscle.
Could almost see his elbow.
But even more scandalous, Mildred spends the night at the vicarage after she saw his forearms. But mostly she's just sleeping with Fitz around her.
Yeah.
And she's kind of
upset after the fire and everything.
Right. And she's kind of just sitting there like, I could go home, but like no one's waiting up for me. They probably locked up the house already. And like, who cares? Like, I do love that in this. She's like, I'm 40. It's not that much of a scandal. What would we be doing? And it's like, Mildred.
Come on. I do love how the author has made this like Regency realistic, where she thinks that Mildred thinks that she is so out of touch and that nobody could ever want to do anything with her at 40.
I know.
It makes me laugh.
Oh, jeez. So Mildred, like during this time, kind of has like everyone goes to bed. She's up. She can't really sleep. And she has a sudden need to like write down everything she's learned about the dragon. And so it's a little bit of the pocket guide coming out right away.
The pocket guide.
It's the I like that I was doing a little bit of a high British accent. You go, it's the pocket guide.
I cannot do a British accent.
No, that was a beautiful accent. I
have to do Newsies. I guess not Newsies. I'm thinking of I
asked Jack how he slept and he said, "On me back, Bush." But Christian Bale was British, so you're not wrong. Okay. So she stays up all night writing, and Mr. Wiggin like is like, "Are you okay?" And they just kind of talk. And she says she's writing about Fitz, and there's nothing about them to study outside of fairy tales, so she just wants to write it down. And like Mr. Wiggin is like, well, someone has to write it down, so like it might as well be you know.
I love how encouraging Mr. Wiggin and Mrs. Babington are of Miss Percy, how they're just like, why not you? You should totally do it. You can do it. You're awesome. You are totally capable of taking care of a dragon.
I know. And so she decides she has to like go back to Ashby Lodge. She can't fall asleep. She's gonna have to talk to her sister about going to Warwickshire. Or Warwickshire, and Mr.
Another
Wiggin,
England place.
Mr. Wiggin offers to walk her home, and I do love this because again, it's like she doesn't think anyone will think anything bad will happen. She's 40, but she's also like, well, people can't see us walking around during the daytime, and it's like you were there all night. Like people are going to be more scandalized by that.
You stayed the night. That's the scandal.
But she like heads out on her own. And she's like, no, watch after Fitz. We have like planning to do, you have to go through everything. And Fitz is like digging into stuff and like getting into everything. And she like runs around scolding him at all times. She's like, get down. Like, what are you doing?
Fitz is very much in a cat or puppy era.
Yeah. And they realize that he kind of has to go with them because like he just can't stay here. It's too much for Mr. Wiggin to watch after him. And he kind of comes to terms with that as well. And so they're like, oh, and it might be better if he comes with you to like protect you guys. And so she like leaves and she's like, well, no one paid her much mind as she left. And it's like, you still stayed at the vicar's house. Like, oh my gosh. And she's like worried about going back to Ashby Lodge because she knows her sister will be very upset with her.
Can I just add in? I think that one thing that I've noticed is like Mildred's self-worth is like below the ground. Like she has no opinion of herself beyond just I'm old and I can't do anything and I'm not worthy of doing anything except all the stuff that my sister bosses me around to do. Right. But that's, I think, why she thinks when she leaves the vicarage that, nobody noticed me because nobody ever notices me. And I think that's like a continual theme that we see throughout this book is that Mildred is so like lacking in self-worth that she just doesn't think that she can do anything or that people notice her. And then we see some of these characters start to notice her and start to acknowledge that she's actually good at all sorts of things. Right. So then we see her start to value herself more, which is awesome.
Right. I agree. And like, I also think like you see the ebbs and flows of it that are really normal, where it's like outside of her home or, the house she lives in, she like feels amazing and she feels very valued. And then she comes back home and she has like that deep seated fear of drama and angst and like knowing she's going to go into a home that doesn't really see her at all. Yep. But
being around certain characters is draining and brings her back to that place.
And she's going to be drained by her sister. And we cut over to Reginald with Miss Muncie. And like she brought over everything she could find from Mildred's room. And they're mostly papers. There's just rubbish. There's no stones or rocks like he said she needed. And he's like, well, is there anything else going on? And she's like, I don't know. She's always out running her errands at the vicarage. And he's like, oh, what did you say? And he asks when it happened, and she's like, a couple of weeks after we got that letter from my dad's great uncle. And they're like,
I suppose he would be my great uncle. I think she literally says that.
And they're like talking about Mr. Wiggin and how he's like nothing to talk about, and he's just kind of ridiculous. And she's like, I guess he could be helpful. I don't know. And she's like sitting there being like, oh, he must be wanting to get back to London. We're all so dull here. And
what is this London obsession?
Oh, I think it's just like small town girl being like, I'm so beautiful and wonderful that I believed I deserved to be in the big city.
To be in London.
In London. And so they discuss going to the vicarage to see what's going on. And it's like, well, he could have helped with the research and we'll go visit him tomorrow. And, so much fun. And we cut over to Mildred with Diana, who's being the worst. And being like, why would you go across country? Like, there's to seek out a man we don't know. Like, it's ridiculous. And she's like, well, I trust him. Like, our great uncle trusted him. So why wouldn't I? And Diana also makes like side remarks about the fact that the estate didn't go to anyone in the family. And it's like, did you mean you? Because like it would have gone to Mildred. Right. And I don't know what you're talking about. And she's like trying to walk around things. And Diana is like horrified when Mr. Wiggins' name comes up, because she's like, you're not traveling with him, right? It would be terrible. Like, and then she is awful to Mildred. And she's like, I hope you don't think you're going to form an attachment with him, because like you're way too old for that. And don't let him ruin you just because you need something from him. And she's like, that's not what's happening. How dare you?
You're so terrible.
She's the worst. And she's like, no, he's not coming with me. His housekeeper is. She's going to help me. And so, like, she's like, well, it'll be respectable and don't worry about it. And you can tell Diana just doesn't want her to leave because she expects her to help with everything. And she's like horrified when Mildred's like, no, I'm going. I'm not listening to you. This is ridiculous. Like, you're not the boss of me.
Right.
And they plan. So Diana's kind of just horrified that her sister's finally standing up for herself. And
I mean, how
Yeah.
dare she?
I know. And this is so bad. Like, where she's like, am I your servant or a child that I must get permission for you before leaving? And Diana's like, you don't have to be so dramatic. Am I a servant? Am I a child? And it's just like, are you kidding? You're mocking her.
Are you a child? Yes, you are.
Yeah. And she, and like Mildred's pointing out, like, how am I being disrespectful? And it's just like, if I'm being so terrible that you have to act this way, maybe me going away for a few days, like, will get you out from my ill gratitude. And so she's turning Diana's words on her. And Mildred is like, and Diana's like expecting her to turn around and like apologize.
And it's not happening.
And she kind of expects her to like go back and be like, oh, I'm so silly. I'm so sorry. And she's just like, nope, I'm leaving tomorrow. And she leaves. And she's like, I want to ask him about my inheritance. And Diana's like, obviously just so super pissed that she has this independence. And she's like pissed about the inheritance. She's so mad because like Reginald Hawthorne came up to see her. And she's like, yeah, to see me. It really pisses you off that it was about me. And this is about me and not you.
About you.
And Diana, like her face shrivels up like a prune. And she's like, I will not tolerate this insolence. And Mildred goes, good night. And she's like, dang it, it's the morning. I was so good. I was like so close.
It was almost perfect.
I know. And so she just goes to bed. And she like packs for the next day. And she's like, maybe I am being dramatic, but then she kind of stops herself. Like Diana is quick to stuff out her independence. She's using words to like guilt and smother her, and she like recognizes the narcissism and the awfulness that Diana is giving her. So she's like, nope, I'm gonna leave. We've decided to do this. But she also can't sleep because she's so nervous about this, and she's just like worried about everything. So she has to get up, and she says that she hopes her sister's half awake on her side of the house, but she's like, probably not. And so she heads out and she goes into Upper Plimpton, and she and Mrs. Babington head out with like Fitz in a little cage, like a cat.
I don't know why I was picturing just like a basket that you would see like them take out on a picnic. And they have like the lids on either side, you know what I mean? That like pop open. That's what I was picturing.
That might be what it is, but like later on, they're like, "Oh, what's in there? A cat?" And I'm like, "Well, that wouldn't be a picnic basket. There has to be some showing that it's, But you're probably right. Well,
that's why I thought it was like some kind of lidded basket.
Yeah, maybe it's a lidded basket. But Mrs. Babington also like brings the most food in the world for a trip. Mrs. Babington is like me when I take I took an 8-hour car ride, and I was immediately like, we have to go buy snacks. Like we're not gonna travel across country without a bag full of snacks. What are you talking about? Amazing. We need sweets and salt and everything. You just never know. So Mr. Wiggins says goodbye, and he touches Mildred's hand, and it's so nice.
Romance.
And like Mr. Wiggins like, I'm so sorry I can't go with you guys. And Mrs. Babington's like, I'm more worried about you. You're helpless.
Like, how are you gonna feed yourself?
It's
like my mom leaving for an afternoon and being like, I don't know what your dad is gonna eat. It's like, well, he will be fine. He's 60 years old. Hopefully he knows how to get a bag of chips out of the cupboard or something. Like, geez.
My dad eats so much fried chicken now that my mom's done gone. Like, he eats so much fried chicken. It does say that it's like a basket with a blanket over it, which is the trackiness inside. And they say it's a lady's sick cat, so people don't go into it. So they kind of go out in the coach. They're trying not to like disturb Fitz so that he'll keep sleeping. They're just loading him with alcohol from time to time. No, they don't load him with alcohol, but I love every time they're like, we gave him a couple thimblefuls of brandy.
A little bit.
And so they get close. They like stop at an inn to rest and relax. And they like talk about how they need someone to get them there. So Miss Babington goes and she gets someone to help them. And his name is Mr. Simonin.
Because I was at first reading it like Simon on.
No,
and then it says it rhymes with cinnamon.
And it's saying he like graciously pointed it out to him, and he's like, I'll totally take you, it's totally on the way. And he has like this rundown cart that he has to like load them up in the back with all their stuff. And This is so sweet because it's like Mildred and Mrs. Babington don't realize that there are bad people in the world because they like have lived in a tiny town their entire life. So they didn't think to not trust the man in a sketch carriage being like, don't worry, I gotcha. You're right.
They should have been traveling with me. I question everyone and
ask more questions.
Never
that's
trust
our biggest
anyone.
That's our biggest critique
Someone
of
approaches
everything. Ask more
what
questions.
do you want?
So they kind of like, so then we cut over to Reginald Hawthorne waiting in the drizzle for Miss Belinda Munsey. And she comes in and she's like, my aunt's gone. Like, my mom's mad about it. I don't know where she went. But she left without a word. And there she's like, and he's like, what are we going to do? And she's like, we're going to go to the vicarage as we planned, like, obviously. And she's just like, for all of Aunt Mildred being like, I'm gonna stay at the hotel. Like, I'm gonna stay at the vicarage. No one will notice me. Miss Belinda Bunsey is like dragging this man up and down the streets with her, thinking no one will see her.
She is helping. She is a hero.
And so they go in and they're like, they invite themselves in to Mr. Wiggins' house. And he's kind of just like, I don't want you guys here, but I don't know how to get rid of you.
He's so awkward and amazing.
He's just like, I don't know how to put on tea. And she's like, I do. And she goes through
and then she's like, I have to poop right now.
I'm pretty sure she indicates it's peeing. But
I thought poop because it makes it more awkward.
And so she leaves to go use the water closet, which is on the second floor. And I'm like, was that industry standard back then to have it on the second floor? Because it's like, you don't want it on the second floor. Yeah. But anyway, the water closet is upstairs on the second floor. So she goes to use it. And then she comes back down and she's like, I guess I'll leave. I guess we'll leave now. Can they ask him awkward questions?
That's done. Thank you for letting me pee. It's time for us to go.
And they ask about the fire and all this stuff. And like, you know, everyone's just kind of walking around the fact that they all know what the other one's doing right now. So they leave and she's like, yeah, I looked in his office. Look what I found. And she like stole a bunch of his stuff.
She's terrible. She's like, I couldn't get too much because I had to like kind of time it out for the amount of time that it would take me to go to the bathroom. So
right. And so I just took it and she like, and it's the drawings that like look like half-formed creatures and the eggs and the dragons. And they're like, oh, and she like steals the stones and everything. And she's like, there's no sign of the stone you described. And they're like, well, I think she went to Warwickshire to Exley Hall. And she's like, why would she do that? And he's like, well, your great great uncle's home. Like, she went to go see them. And she's like, oh, okay, let's run off together and go find them. And he's like, are you serious? And she's like, yeah, I'm serious. I'm involved too.
I'm part of this.
And so she's like, they're already hours behind. So they leave like immediately.
Yeah.
But
not a moment to waste.
We cut back over to Mildred and Mrs. Babington, and they're like traveling a very long time. Fitz is like sleeping in her lap. Or sleeping in the basket on her lap. And then Mr. Simonon tries to he rips Mildred out of the car and he's like, I'm going to be robbing you of everything. I'll leave you your cat because I'm not like a godless man, but
I'm a Christian. So you get to keep your cat, but I'm going to rough you up and take everything else you got.
And I feel so bad because Mildred doesn't really understand what's going on. She's just sitting there like anyone who is an awkward person in a new situation being like, what's happening? Oh, you're ripping me out of this car? Okay. So
weird.
Just pulls her into the mud. And as he's doing that, Fitz topples out and he's a very disgruntled dragon. So he bites Mr. Simonon's nether region because he's very upset about it. And Mr. Simonon is like horrified. He's like running around, yelling, screaming, and Fitz scares him away. I mean, everyone's like, good thing you guys had the dragon with you.
Except then this moment afterward is like kind of sad because so then he's gone and then Mrs. Babington says something like, sorry, didn't help with that. Like, I feel really bad, but I was just like frozen. I feel bad that I didn't help out. And Miss Percy is so nice and is like, it's okay. Nobody knows how to react in that kind of situation. Like, it's okay.
Well, and she's like, and Mrs. Pemberton immediately is like, I can drive us. Like they just pack up everything and go to Exley Hall together. And like Mildred does notice at this point that like Fitz didn't really attack anyone but Mr. Simonin. Like
Yeah.
he went after him because he seemed to understand that there was something
Yeah,
bad
so
going
there's
on.
like some form, a little bit of intelligence that we can tell that Fitz has, more so than just like being. I don't think
Being
he
a dragon.
would
Yeah,
associate
he
like
wouldn't
a
have
random lizard with being
right.
able to decipher who is a bad guy.
Right. So he has some, higher intelligence. So they
Mhm.
get to Exley Hall and they meet Mr. Gorman, the steward of the estate who received it.
It was very sweet.
He's so sweet. And he's like, oh, come on inside. We're like, was there something wrong? What happened? Um, and she's like, yeah, Mr. Forthright left me that inheritance. And he's like, yeah, like I made sure to follow his wishes. And she's like, well, I need to show you something. She shows him Fitz and he's like, oh my gosh, he knew, like he had the right of it. And he's like
He
excited.
thought it was gonna happen.
And she's like startled by this reaction. She's just kind of like, what? And so he takes her inside. He lets her like get cleaned up, calm down. And Fitz is just, having a fun time with her.
Right.
And so they kind of go to bed for the night. They decide to talk in the morning. It talks about how like Fitz keeps ruining all the sheets and blankets because he keeps wanting to be upstairs with Mildred and getting all comfy cozy, and he'll just rip things to shreds. And Mrs. Babington apologizes again for the day before. She's like, don't worry, like it's all fine. And they go down and they talk to Mr. Gorman. And he kind of talks about how like her uncle won the egg in like a gambling like bet. And he always thought that it could hatch or like it was a hatchling. And he never really like Mr. Gorman never really believed him. But now he knows that it's true. And he's like, and you named him Fitz? And it's like, well, Fitzwilliam's his full name. And he's like laughing because he's like, oh my God, you're like,
this is like people with their dogs where they're like, it's his name is actually this, but I also call him Theodore James III. Okay, his name is Teddy. I thought that you call him Theodore James.
I was like, everyone's like, what is your dog's name? What do you actually call them? And I'm like, oh, like I call Whiskey Whiskers all the time. I'm like, Whiskers, come here.
Everyone calls their dog by a million different names.
Exactly. And so he's kind of just like, your great uncle would love the fact that you named him Fitzwilliam, and he would get a kick out of all of this. And he kind of talks about like how there are other readings and like other personal journals that her uncle had that he's like, I need these because they're personal, but like you're allowed to read through them and everything. And she kind of just like becomes close with Mr. Gorman. He's like, hey, you guys can stick here for a while you learn more about Fitz from everything. You're
stay
welcome
as long
to stay.
As you want. That's totally fine.
And she's kind of like Mrs. Babington's like, well, I think I need to get back like sooner rather than later. I'll stay for a couple days. And he's like, okay, I'll make sure you get back safely. And like Mildred's like, well, I have to think about it, and she kind of talks about like, I just don't understand why this happened to me. And Mr. Gorman is also super supportive and like, why not you? Like, you get to do this. Like, this is exciting. And so
like your uncle could tell from the time you were a little girl that you were really capable and cool and good at stuff.
And so she kind of finds out quite a bit as she stays with Mr. Gorman. Like, he's like, your uncle always talked fondly of you. She's like, I don't really remember him. And he's like, oh, he remembered you. Like, he knew you wanted to be on adventures and do adventurous things. So like, that's why he left you this stuff, because he believed in this kind of stuff. So he wanted you to have it as well. And she's kind of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe someone remembered that about me. And we also find out during this time that Mr. Gorman was her great uncle's boyfriend, pretty much, and partner. And so that's lovely. I loved that. And so she just kind of stays there for a couple days. It talks about how they kind of live in a secluded area and he has a lot of trusted servants. So Fitz just kind of gets to be up and about and running around.
He's like, they're very loyal to me. They're not going to be going out in town and saying, hey, guess what? He's got a dragon.
Right. And so they kind of talk about like how Fitz has like an affinity towards it. He's just having a hail time. And Mildred decides to stay for a couple of days and lets like Mrs. Babington return alone because she just thinks she has to figure out what's going on with Fitz and what to do with him next and where to go next because she feels a lot of responsibility for him.
Sure.
And she kind of also reviews some of the ways that like Diana has treated her. And she kind of like realizes like, I think a lot about Diana and, you know, is she thinking this much about me kind of thing?
Does she consider me in this way?
Yeah. And she kind of feels sorry for like the children and Mr. Muncie and all they have to do to deal with Diana. But like, she can't continue on being the buffer of Diana against the whole family. Like there's just no way she could do that. She has responsibilities now that are her own. And so she kind of writes to her sister and she's like, yeah, I'm going to stay for a while. I'm not coming home. But she does realize that she might want to return home because she can't imagine life without Mrs. Babington and Mr. Wiggins. So she can't stay forever, but she can stay for a little while. And so during this time, we also find out that Mr. Hawthorne and Miss Muncie's are traveling. Miss Belinda Muncie are traveling without anyone in Ruin, and they have to pretend they're married so that people don't know because it's real bad. And
scandalous.
But Miss Muncie like does not give two craps. Like she's like, whatever, like, we're married. Like
we're married. I'll sleep on the bed. We'll get you some pillows for the floor.
And like, I'm going to go take a bath. You stay down here for like 2 hours and then you can come upstairs. Like, and so he's sitting there like thinking about her naked upstairs. And
like, this is amazing. She is the most perfect person ever. I love her so much.
But while he's down there, he starts drinking really bad beer. And he starts hearing this man named Mr. Simonin talk about a devil with black wings and two old ladies. And he kind of like asks the gentleman about this. And he talks about how he was doing something out of the goodness of his heart to take them to Exley Hall without payment. And they let a demon attack him. And like Reginald keeps asking him lots of questions every time he talks about it. Like,
he's like, wait a minute,
situation gets worse.
Was the one woman like a maid and the other one was old and dressed nice?
And he's like, I can't really remember them. They're not really memorable. And all he can remember is how terrible it was that he got attacked. And Mr. Hawthorne is like, oh, so the egg has hatched. And
it
all of a
was
sudden,
an egg.
And he's like, well, I was supposed to get a ton of money from this. Like, I had already talked to people who would have bought it. And he immediately is like, whatever, this is still mine. Like, even if it's hatched, it's definitely mine. This creature is for me.
I owed this.
And so he goes up to go to bed. He sees her perfectly sleeping, her lips slightly parted with no drool, but also
of course no drool, and she's got her hands just like under her cheek, and
part of me was like, we're gonna find out she's awake, right?
Well, I was kind of thinking that too. I was like, how is she sleeping so perfectly? This is all an act for her. She's like the person that wakes up and puts on makeup and then goes and lies back down in bed like, oh, I just woke up like this.
But Olson does a good job because I was expecting that, but instead we get like a moment where he's looking at her and he kind of sees her for who she really is, which is like kind of dull, kind of like not as shiny and perfect as he thinks.
Right.
And then he just blames it on how much he had to drink. And so
what could I possibly be thinking?
Yeah. So the next day, like Mrs. Babington has breakfast. They all eat breakfast together. And they're like, again, Mrs. Babington is like, hey, I'm leaving you here by yourself. And like, you're single and Mr. Gorman's single. Like, should I be worried? And she's like, oh my gosh, there are a million people here. It's not that big of a deal. He's a family friend.
You do not know what's going on. Like, no, it's not a worry.
She's like, I don't think I'm his type. And so Mrs. Babington is like, okay, but she's also very sad to like see her go with her bags full of food. So
I'm really gonna miss that cake.
Yeah. And so they head out. And immediately, like, there's another carriage coming, and she's like, oh, good thing Fitz is inside, because like I don't want him like out and about if another carriage is showing up.
Right.
And she like asks Mr. Gorman if like he expects anyone. He's like, no. And then all of a sudden, like, Belinda and Mr. Hawthorne jumps out.
Yeah.
And like Mildred is pissed, and Belinda kind of comes into the scenario thinking she has the upper hand because she obviously doesn't think about her at all.
So stupid.
She's so stupid. And so she's like, well, you left without us, so we couldn't like leave fine. So like we traveled to come get you. And Mildred is like, you just ruined your entire reputation. What are you talking about? Like, this is awful. And she like Belinda's like, if anyone ruined any of our reputations, it was you spending all that time at the Vickers. And like
she's like, no, I was always with somebody that we were always supervised. It's not like there was anything scandalous happening.
And she has a moment where she like thinks to be like she thinks to be a little bit like
petty. And
well, it's not even that, but she has a moment
not
where
even
she's
petty.
Like, is Belinda right? Like, was I being inappropriate? And then she was like, no, like but like Belinda keeps being like, and we know what you have. We know what you stole from Mr. Hawthorne. You need to give it back to him. He deserves it. It's his. And she's like, and Mildred has a moment where she's like, oh wow, she's talking to me, and like maybe I can just go home. Maybe I can give him this dragon and like just leave this all behind. And then she's like, no, I'm not gonna do well. I'm sorry to go back on this because this is an important section that I want to talk about next week when we talk about like themes and stuff. But Belinda kind of talks about like how her keeping it from Mr. Hawthorne isn't right because Mildred's life has already passed her by, and this is a very adventurous thing happening.
Right.
And so it is time for Belinda and Mr. Hawthorne to like step into the story as the lead characters. And this is where Belinda's like, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out to like have this dragon.
Where Mildred's like this.
Oh yeah, Mildred was like, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not cut out to have this dragon and do all the things I need to do with this dragon, and maybe adventures aren't for me. And then she's like, no, I'm not doing that. That's ridiculous. Like, and so Belinda like immediately is about to start crying.
Yeah.
She's like, no, you need to go home. If anyone's harmed the family, it's definitely you and Mr. Hawthorne. And she's like, and Mr. Hawthorne, like, you better say what you need to say because you've been walking around the truth for weeks. Like, I know that Mr. Gorman has no memory of you. I know everything. So like you need to say
up here, buddy.
Now. And Mr. Gorman is like, well, I would have them barred from the property if you wanted me to, but like, she is your niece, so let me know. And he's like, do you feel an obligation to save her? Or is her character beyond repair? And she's kind of like, well, we're going to go get tea while I think about this. Like, I don't have to do this right now. And so she walks up into the drawing room, leaves, and immediately like starts running around for tea and to check on Fitz. And Fitz is just passed out. And she's like, okay, so that's fine. Fitz is fine. I need to like get everything in order. And so she like, I love that she has this strong moment and then she immediately is like, oh, I need to get all this stuff done. I
mean,
she
so realistic.
I know, right? So she brings back the tea. And she like sees that everyone's kind of looking at her and letting her deal with things. And she's like, well, but my biggest thing is like Fitz is my charge and I need to keep him safe. So she's like, I wish I had alcohol right now. This is ridiculous. And so Mr. Hawthorne seems to be like standing as far away from Belinda as possible to be like, I didn't do anything wrong. And she's like, you're ridiculous. You two are ridiculous. And she notices that like Mr. Hawthorne is trying to be like smug and leery and attempting to make himself as small as possible. Like he's trying to figure out what will make Miss Percy listen to him pretty much.
It's like, how do I fade into the background enough here that she's going to forget about all this and then I can reappear?
And he's like, well, here's the thing. I had to lie to you because you wouldn't let me into your confidence if I didn't. And she's like, so you wanted me to trust you by being a liar? And he's like,
right.
Well, it seemed like a good idea. Like, and so he tells her the whole sob story about how like her uncle came into possession of his inheritance and it should have never happened. His father was suffering under too much alcohol, and so it wasn't his fault. And like how this is supposed to be his like his inheritance for this egg. And so he's not even telling her that he knows that the dragon has hatched. He's just asking for the egg. And she's kind of like, well, the egg doesn't exist anymore.
She's like, if I could give it to you, I would, but I don't have it. So
right. And so and he's kind of like, she's like, well, even if you wanted it, like what would happen if I refused to give it to you? And he's like, you're right. I don't have any legal like action. I just,
Except I'm a man and you're a woman, and people might think that I deserve it.
And Belinda's like, really, you're just being ridiculous. That's egg or stone. It can't mean much to you, but it means everything to him. And like, come on. And she's like, if anyone deserved to have it, it'd be him. And so let's like give it to us. I just watched the episode of Parks and Rec where Bobby Newport is like, couldn't you just not run? Couldn't you just give it to me?
Give it to me. Just give it to me.
Just give it to me. Oh, wouldn't it be so awesome if you did? And then I could have a huge party and I'd invite you. Like,
except Paul Rudd is so likable and Belinda is so not.
But that's pretty much what Belinda is doing. She's trying to pull Paul Rudd without his charisma.
Yeah, she doesn't have the charisma.
And so Mildred is like, you're being ridiculous. I'm taking you out of here because you're being such a little brat. And you two are bringing out the worst.
Yeah, she was just like, I am literally not even going to respond to that. Like, you need to get away from him.
And she's kind of like, why are you acting like this? This is terrible. You're being such a like petulant child. And like, what, like you are being so rude. And Belinda is kind of like, why would I have to be polite? This isn't even like Mr. Gorman's estate. It's our familial estate. So we have every right to be here and he has no right to be here. And
it's like, it was left to him. It's his.
Yeah. Like, and Mildred's like, no, that's not how this works. Like, you're going to be going home. Like, you'll rest here today and tonight. And like tomorrow I'm taking you to Upper Plimpton myself. This is ridiculous. No. And so she kind of walks back in and this is when she's like, yeah, if I had the egg, I could possibly give it to you, but I don't. So like, this isn't something that can happen. And Mr. Hawthorne is immediately like, give it to me. Just give it to me. And she's like, no, we're not going to do that. You're going to leave. And she kind of like notices that he thinks she's the villain. And she's like, nope, it's impossible. Like Belinda and I will be leaving. You two won't be seeing each other anymore. I'll see her back to Upper Plimpton. Like, you better not be around. And so she's like, he kind of just leaves and she is like, well, that was easy enough. Like, we'll leave tomorrow.
It's just like that little button from Staples. That was easy.
And so she's like, well, I guess I'll leave Fitz here for like a day or two. I'll come back and like just take my niece back. And so it talks about how Mr. Hawthorne waits at the inn because he got a note from Miss Muncy that says, please,
how did she even get this note to me?
And he's like, oh my gosh, she's so brilliant. And it's like, she paid a stable boy. Calm down.
Like, and she signed it Miss M. Just think maybe she could sign a note Mrs. H.
Oh my gosh, they're so weird. And so she tells him to meet her at 2:00 on the second floor, third window from the left, east side. And so Mildred is like up late reading, getting ready to go. She goes to bed, she kind of falls asleep, and then she almost goes for a snack, but she doesn't. And she is awoken.
Man, Mildred is relatable.
I know, right? I often am like, I really want to eat something, and it's like, I just brushed my teeth.
Up late reading, and then
yeah,
like, I could use a snack, but
like I'm not going to waste the 10 minutes to eat the snack that I could be sleeping that I need to finish this book in.
Right.
So anyway, she all of a sudden hears like this screaming, and she realizes that like Belinda is in her room with a canvas bag trying to grab Fitz off the bed to chuck him out the window. And thus starts like the longest struggle I've ever seen on page.
This is really convoluted.
It's so convoluted. So like Belinda half gets Fitz in, can't get the rest of them in. Miss Percy's like struggling with her to like not have Fitz go towards the window. She tries to shove him out the window. Like Miss Percy brings him back in. Fitz like sets Belinda on fire practically and like scratches at her face, and like they put her out.
Well,
and
then he goes after. Oh, we're not there yet. Okay.
Yeah. So like Belinda keeps pretty much losing. Like she loses the fight and then she starts up again like a ridiculous human being.
She's just like, okay, I'm done. No, I'm back in. I'm back in.
Like at one point she's like sitting in a chair and they're like all sitting there calm and like Fitz is next to Miss Percy and she just
dives for him,
running after him and you're like, oh my gosh, why are you doing
like,
this?
What?
He
That was unexpected.
Fire. And like Mr. Gorman like tries to come in and she's like, or no, she's like hoping Mr. Gorman will come in and like Belinda is like, she's like, oh my gosh, like Mr. Hawthorne is down below and Belinda's screaming like, why would you get dragon? Because she's like, leave Fitz alone. And so there's a ton of confusion. And Miss Percy like feels very bruised because Belinda keeps going after her and tackling her like a lineman. And so Mr. Gorman comes in to like help and Mildred's like, they tried to take Fitz and they all look outside and like Mr. Hawthorne is down below.
Just like standing there like a goon. Like, come on.
And somehow Belinda was able to push Fitz out the window, but he's like caught on the wall, like holding on by his claws. And like Hawthorne sees everyone like going after him and he immediately runs away. So, or he's like, at first he's trying to catch Fitz, but Mildred tries to like reach down for Fitz because she's worried about him. And at this point in time, Fitz has never flown or anything. So they just don't want Mr. Hawthorne to catch him so that he will try to get away. And so she goes to catch him and he falls and they think he'll fall like right on Mr. Hawthorne, but instead he lifts up into the sky and flies away.
He can fly.
He can fly. He can fly. He can fly. And so she's like,
Look
okay.
at him way up high suddenly. There he goes. He's flying.
Second star on the left and straight on
till morning.
And so Mildred's like, well, I have to get dressed. And she's like, Belinda, stay here. You're ridiculous. Like,
can you please just stay put? I know you're not going to do it, but try.
Oh my God. And Hawthorne has already run away when when the dragon leaves. And so she like gets dressed and she's like, I have to go get Fitz. And Belinda's like, what about me? And she's like, and what about you? Like, come on. And she's like, well, am I supposed to be like put in timeout? And she's like, well, if you'd stop acting like a child, then maybe I would let you do something. But the
fact that you think you're still involved in this, Belinda, is shocking.
You are so far out of the plot of this novel that it's like ridiculous at this point. So Mildred
exit now
goes out searching for him. Everyone splits up. And she ends up finding him like in this little cove place, like in the back of an area where she's like up on a stool seeing him. And he's kind of just like nestled in because like he just flew. He's tired. He was attacked a million times. And so she like goes to call him and he's about to come to her when all of a sudden she hears a noise and Mr. Hawthorne is there with a knife. And he's like, I'm not a bad guy.
I don't know how to use this. I don't know what I'm doing here, but I could.
But I could, and I grabbed it. And he's like, I'm not a bad guy. I'm not a villain. I'm just someone who will stab you if you don't give me that dragon. Like, and
he fully steps into his villain era.
Right. And he's like, I need the dragon to put me into my rightful place in society. And she's like on the back of a baby dragon. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, and what of Belinda? And he's like, well, I'm going to marry her. Like, it'll be fine. And she's
we
like,
need this to start our new life together.
And she's like, you think she'll agree to marry you? And it's like, obviously she will. She's obsessed with him. Yeah. She went after a baby dragon for him.
Do you not remember, Miss Percy, how many times she just attacked you?
Obviously.
She will do anything for this man.
I know.
You raised her for 17 years. She threw you out in 2 seconds for him.
And so she's... so she kind of like tells him what Fitz likes, like
he likes bacon, he likes potatoes,
and so
Hawthorne's like, smart, bacon and potatoes are
I
great.
like them too. And so she kind of like gets Fitz, and Fitz goes after Hawthorne. It's like,
and this is the part that was shocking to me because it's like mentioned like his eyes get clawed out and they're bleeding. What? And Mildred's kind of like, okay, and lets him like go for a little while. And she's like, listen, he was like, attacking him. He kind of deserves it. And then she's like, that's enough. It's enough. And he's not listening.
And Fitz is like, no, it's not enough. And then Mr. Gorman comes in and he like gets Mr. Hawthorne back, and Mildred's trying to get Fitz away. And she drags him free. And Mr. Hawthorne is like bleeding profusely. And he like tries to like stab someone, but he can't really get to it. And he like barely punches Mr. Gorman in the chin. And like it's a kerfuffle. All of these chapters are just kerfuffle after kerfuffle. And
it's kind of one of those things where it's like, if you're in it, you're like, what is going on? What a mess we are in.
And then he like runs away again. And Mr. Gorman's like, oh, I'll look for him. I don't know. This is ridiculous. So they go back to the house, and like Belinda's obviously gone. And so she's like, well, I guess I'm going to have to go back home and like check on my sister because her daughter ran away.
Stupid kid is gone.
And so she like sends a note after it. She receives a letter from Diane, I think, where it's just like, my daughter has run away and it's all your fault. It's Mrs. Weasley with the howler. It's all your fault. Like, and so she ends up like going back to the vicarage, stopping to talk to them and being like, so yeah, this is what happened. Mr. Hawthorne tried to steal Fitz, and Fitz took him out. Can he stay with you so I can like go check on my sister, because she's probably not doing too well. And so they are like, well, and the vicar also talks to her about the fact that he thinks he's going to Wales to a place called Nest of Dragons or Dragon's Nest, because he thinks that there might be other dragons there, and he would like both of them to go and look at things and see what's out there. And she's like, oh, you want me on this adventure? And he's like, of course I do. And she's like, well, maybe if we find eggs, we can find like a place for him, or maybe we can just see what's out there.
Because she was kind of considering like, because especially after all this happened, Mildred's like, I really can't do this. I need to take him somewhere where like scientists can take care of him, and study him. And Mr. Wiggin kind of points out like, yeah, but they also are not going to be equipped to take care of him, and Fitz might end up in captivity and treated poorly.
Right. And so there is like kind of a discussion of what's best for Fitz and what's best for everyone involved. So they kind of do decide to go to the Dragon's Nest, or Mr. Wiggins is definitely going, but Mildred said she still has to think about it.
She's like, I have to think about it because my journey of self-discovery and self-worth is not over yet.
So she goes back to her sister's home, and she's kind of like, oh, that says a lot that I don't think about this as my home. And you find out that like her sister's lied to everyone in the community saying her daughter is sick and not, but everyone kind of knows that she ran away with this man. Yeah, like there's no question.
Big scandal.
And so Diana's like, this is your fault. You're the one who brought him here. You were running across the country. Like you left
set a
me
poor example.
You left me all alone to manage an entire household. And she's like, where do you think she learned this behavior? And Mildred's like, I didn't go running around with a man. Mrs. Babington is not a man.
Yeah.
And she's like, but Mr. Wiggins is, and you've been there all the time, and like there's gossip going around. And Mildred is like, I doubt the friendship between two middle-aged people is really that gossip filled, other than like a child running away with a random man. And Diana's like, I don't know where she is. I've told Mr. Muncie that he needs to find her, but how can he manage it? And she's like, well, did she leave any note of where she was going? And she's like, no, she just took her favorite gowns. That's all we know. And Mildred's kind of like, I don't know. Do I tell her about all of like what else is going on? And it's like about how Mr. Hawthorne like is a terrible person, or do I just kind of let it be? And Mildred's like, I'm gonna leave it alone. She's like, how are the children doing? She's like, oh, they're fine. They're somewhere around here. There's so much uproar. And she was kind of like, oh, I'm getting blamed for that too. And she's like, Mr. Muncie won't come out of his study. People called in sick. Like everything's going down the drain. And so she's like, okay. And she kind of just leaves Diana there, and she goes, checks on the kids. They talk about Mr. Fitz, or they talk about Fitz. And she's kind of like, oh, I'm going to miss them, because she kind of realizes she needs to leave. So she's going to take them to the vicarage to see them all one last time. And so she kind of tells Mr. Wiggins she'll go with him. That's kind of right. And she tells Diana she's leaving pretty much, and Diana like kicks her out and won't even let her use the carriage. And
she's the pettiest of petty.
Oh my God. And Mr. Bunsey is like, I'll call the carriage. Like, I'll let you use the carriage. It's fine. She's like, okay, well, I'll walk into town. And they find out that Belinda and Mr. Hawthorne are now married. So it's like, wow,
married,
I guess. And they went off to Scotland. And so she goes into town to leave with the vicar, and she like tells the kids goodbye. They're ready to go on their way. And she talks to the vicar about their travels and what they're hoping to see. And she kind of realizes that she has feelings for him. And she decides she's going to make the first move and kiss him. And he asks if he can call her Mildred now. And she's
like, if I can call you by your first name.
No, she goes, does that mean I have to call you Claude?
Which I was like, when did we learn his name was Claude? Is this it? What?
And so they agreed to be partners in adventure. And they kind of get ready to go on an adventure. Mildred's like, I'm ready as I'll ever be. And Fitz is just sleeping. The end.
What a perfect little story. I love it so much.
I love it.
Can I also just say that the narration, so like this is not told by Miss Percy herself. No. There is a writer and that is telling this story, and it's mentioned several times that there is a writer telling this story. But I love how the writer acknowledges themselves as being the writer. And there's one point in the second half of this book, I can't remember when, but it says something about like, if this were a better written story, and then it says in parentheses, quiet you.
I loved that part. I forgot about that, but oh my gosh, it was so
made
fun.
Me think
quiet
of Dwight.
You.
It made me think of Dwight from The Office, where he's like, quiet you.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
But there's so many like little asides like that the writer gives us, and I absolutely adore them.
This book is so cute. It's so adorable.
I hope
everyone reads it. I adore it so much.
It's a new favorite.
Yeah, for sure. And there is a number 2 out already for all.
I have it.
Miss Percy heads. I don't have it yet.
Miss Percy's Travel Guide to Welsh Moors and Feral Dragons.
I love a good feral dragon story.
Who doesn't?
This book is delightful, everyone. And next week we should be talking to the author about this book. Woo-hoo! We're going to do a little bit of a mix-up since we had it. We're going to have her on, and then we will be closing out our discussion on Miss Percy's Pocket Guide after the interview. So stay tuned for the interview and the non-interview portions.
Sure.
Where we talk about the themes and characters. But Laura, the new favorite book. I don't even have to ask you how much
this
you
is a new
it,
favorite.
It's so cute. It's so delightful.
I will scream it from the mountaintops. Miss Percy's Pocket Guide is a great book.
It's
absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
I'm so glad it won. Thank you to everyone.
I know. Me too. I'm so glad that people voted for this book. This is so great. What a perfect choice for us, and way to mix it up too. We really don't cover this kind of cozy on the podcast. So what a delight.
I do like that like all of the indie books we've done are like so out of the realm of the normal stuff we do.
Sure,
like, we've done I Hunt, which is like role-playing game, like in book form kind of thing. And then we did like a romantic fantasy. And now we've done a cozy fantasy. So I think we've been like playing around with genre a little bit.
Amazing.
Like the best kind of way. So thanks to everyone who participated in Indie Mission. Make sure you're picking up all the books we always vote on for Indie Mission. That's very important. Obviously,
and check out all of Quenby Olson's work. Quenby was in Spiffbo recently, so congrats on being a finalist.
She's amazing. So everyone go pick up all of her works, pick up both of these books, number 1 and number 2, and learn
and
what's
I think
going
number
on
3
with
is in the works, so check out Quenby's Patreon.
Check out her Patreon. Support indie authors, guys. It's super important. That's why we do Indie Mission, to kind of just focus on one author and hopefully get people to read more and more books by indie authors or small press authors.
And you know what? I think you and I need to push this one a little bit harder in our bookstagrams, because this is exactly the type of book that bookstagrammers will eat up.
Just so you know, I put a review on my TikTok and someone said that they already had this on their Kindle, but they were moving it up because I gave a review on TikTok.
Perfect.
So
all you Legends and Lattes fans, get this book.
I tried to tag someone on TikTok who's like known for cozy fantasy. So I'm hoping to get her to read this and put it on her thing. She has like tens of thousands of followers. So we need to push this. It's adorable. It's
so
sweet,
wonderful.
It's everything. I can't wait to talk about it more next week. And everyone just like buy everything and like and subscribe to
Percy, and she's everything, like the Barbie thing.
She's beauty, she's Grace.
No, have you seen the Barbie meme?
Oh yeah, she's
Percy.
She's Miss Percy, and
she's Miss Percy.
He's
and
just
she's
Claude.
He's just Claude.
And he's just Claude.
He's just Fitz.
Yes, definitely buy from indie authors. Get all their stuff. Buy from Quenby Olson. Subscribe to her Patreon.
Follow her on Twitter.
Like it, like and subscribe to this podcast to get more plot episodes and get more on Miss Percy's Pocket Guide. It really helps.
We will be starting
Fond du Lis Jade City, the Green Bone Saga. We're very excited for this and intimidated by how big these books are.
I gotta get off of this recording to start now.
She has got to start the book right now, so I have 2.5 weeks. I know. I'm in the deep depths of Mega May, where Hannah focused on 500 plus page books,
and I'm doing your buddy read. And I'm starting to feel the pressure that I have to read another over 500 page book.
It's not over 500 pages though, because I couldn't count it from Mega May. It's like 400.
My Kindle version
pages. Oh, okay. Well, my version is 466 pages, so I couldn't count it. But if it does count, then you just have another Mega May read, so it's perfect. But yeah, guys, we're doing a ton of stuff right now, so like follow along, because I think we're both a little frazzled with how much we have going on.
There's a lot of reading.
We have a lot of reading. We have Mega May. We have Green Bone Saga. Make sure you're picking up those books in preparation for season 4 of this podcast. That's huge.
Yeah.
Make sure you subscribing to our podcast to see all this stuff. Make sure you're checking out our blog post to see what's coming up next. We have our reading schedule up there, so that is always helpful to look at. Yes. And just, like, review, subscribe, and rate.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, definitely. We appreciate everyone. I'm so frazzled tonight.
Also, just for anybody wanting to know, the Kindle version of Jade City, 612 pages. It's a Mega May.
It's a Mega May, guys. Read Green Bone Saga for Mega May. You heard it here first. Hannah's copy lied to her. She should be able to count it. Oh, good. You brought out your British accent again.
I'm really channeling Newsies.
It's happening. This is the story you wanted to write. So tonight is the night that you can. Extra, guys. Baby born with 3 heads is so yeah, but guys, join us next week for a special author interview and a wrap-up episode. Thank you guys so much and have a good day. Bye.
Bye.